You're listening to a Mamma Mia podcast.
Mamma Mia acknowledges the traditional owners of land and waters that this podcast is recorded on. Hello and welcome to Mamma Mia Out Loud and to our Friday show where we take a big break from the news cycle. Today, friends, it's Friday the 14th of June and I'm Holly Wainwright. And if you missed Monday's ep this week because it was a public holiday, we released a subscriber episode for all of our listeners about intuition. How do you know when you can trust your gut?
I'm Em Freedman, and on Wednesday this week, we had one of the great shows. I really enjoyed it. We talked about the return of the Lad Mag. We had to explain to Em the difference between a coffee table book and a magazine.
A bit of an exaggeration.
And we also unpacked grey rock theory, which sounds like not biology. What's the one with minerals?
Geology.
Geology. No, it wasn't that ology. It's actually, I like to call it the grey rock technique, which I have been adopting every day since because it can really help you in conversations, especially if you have to deal with psychopaths, narcissists, or people who are very shouty.
Why are you looking at me when you're saying psychopaths and narcissists?
Because I'm actually thinking, could all of those things describe me? So I'm projecting. To listen to any of those episodes about any of those things, there's a link in our show notes.
And I'm Em Vernem. I'm filling in for Jessie again. I'm also on our daily entertainment podcast, The Spill.
On today's show, why are people so furious with one handsome, cheating Christian husband? And our recommendations, which include a now iconic Aussie comedy, A Single Woman's Fury, and Mia's new obsession. And our bests and worsts, which include Side Friends, Contagious Bleeding, and Influenza A. Influenza A.
Influenza A.
Influenza A.
Yeah, I'm the influencer A.
Influenza. But first, Em Vernem.
In case you missed it, a groom is fighting with his sister because she doesn't want to attend his wedding in the nude.
What?
So a Reddit user's post went viral after the sister of the groom-to-be bared all in what I would describe as an exposed family matter.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Do you see that? I was expecting a laugh, but I got a
God, I hate puns.
Yes.
I know you do. I forgot. So she wrote, whatever consenting adults do in their private lives is none of my concern, and that extends to my brother and his fiancée being naturists. However, I do take an issue with them being angry that I won't attend their wedding. So she went on to say that the wedding and reception is taking place at a naturist resort.
So naturists are nudists, right?
Yes.
People who like to be naked.
Yes.
And they met at a naked resort?
They met at a naked resort. So there's some significance of having the wedding at the resort.
Oh, dear.
His sister tried so much. She asked them, can I wear normal wedding clothes? And they were like, no, like the rest of the resort, you have to be nude.
Stop it.
She even said, I will pay for another reception, which just made them more angry. She said, I'm not comfortable being nude in front of a large crowd of strangers. I am definitely not comfortable walking up the aisle arm in arm with a groomsman I've never met and we're both nude, or standing in front of everyone during the ceremony, or being in all the photographs when I am nude. I am not saying they should not get married in a naturist resort. I'm just uncomfortable with attending the wedding if I'm required to be nude for it.
Look, I think that's fair enough.
She tried. She gave them options.
It's a destination wedding, but a dress code that nobody really
a destination
wants.
that we don't want to go to.
I feel like this is a bridge too far. I think that guests need to consent. And I guess not consenting, they should respect that.
Can you imagine being at a nudist wedding? Can you imagine? Because you know how one of the things about weddings is it brings everybody together.
Yeah.
Old, young,
no.
all different people.
No.
You're related to half of them. And then we're all naked and we're all looking at each other. And you know that the bride, because she's the bride, is going to somehow be the hottest nude person there.
And she'll have a veil as well. So just be like.
On her pubes.
Yeah.
And
I don't know.
that's where she'd put the bouquet.
She'd put a pube veil. Oh, no, she's got a veil on her head and the bouquet.
Daisies.
Yeah, right.
It'll be cute.
Just tucked into her pubes.
My friend's brother had a medieval themed wedding. I thought that was bad enough. She had to wear one of those pointy hats with some veil of it.
Oh my God. And then they duel? Did they duel halfway
and
through?
there was like mead and pigs and stuff. And she was just like, I was like, I wouldn't be
That
going
sounds
to
like fun though.
this. No. Hard
Actually,
pass.
know someone. I've just remembered I know someone who had a nude wedding.
No.
I didn't go, obviously. It was before I knew him. And it was a really, really long time ago. And it was kind of when he was going through a bit of a hippie phase. But I don't know if everybody had to be nude. I think the celebrant was nude. I don't know if the guests had to be nude though. But
So it's just the
he
three
and
of
his
them.
wife were nude, and I think the celebrant was nude. And were they also in a pool, or am I getting that confused with home births?
This is. If you had to go to a nude wedding, would you shave?
There is no world in which I had to go to a nude wedding. But you know what? I was thinking about one of the reasons why this story is so good is that because for nudists, they don't see being nude as anything sexual, anything strange. They're like, this is very natural. But the whole point of a wedding is there's all kinds of different people there.
Yeah.
So even though the nudists might be super chill, there would definitely be like creepy Uncle Frank and like, oh, no.
Signing up for Ashley Madison and like literally saying I want to have an affair. When I got to that point, it's like, what the heck? How did I get here? Like several years ago, I would have never just blatantly chosen to have an affair.
One couple that definitely did not have a nude wedding is Nia and Sam Rader. Now, those names might not be immediately familiar to you, but this week on No Filter, I interviewed this couple who are a deeply religious Christian couple who are also vloggers. So that's video blogger.
Mm-hmm.
I sound like I'm trying
Back
to
in the
explain
day,
something.
there were
Yeah.
vloggers.
It was like before influencers, there were people who would just show you around their family.
It was big 2011, 2014.
Exactly. When it was like, come inside our family. Yeah. And so Sam and Nia were these online influencers and they had this quite successful YouTube channel. And Too Long Don't Read, he cheated on her. He joined Ashley Madison, the website for cheaters. And then when there was a big data leak, the world found out and it was a big scandal. Now, the way that they became famous that some people might remember, again, this was a real 2011 thing. I remember it because I'm sure we did a story about it on Mamma Mia. When you're a family vlogger, you have to kind of think of different stunts that could get people to your channel. And so she was pregnant with, I think, their second or third child. And he had this idea because he was a nurse that he would bring her pregnancy test home from the hospital and he would test her urine in the toilet.
I remember
so
this video.
He could break the pregnancy news to her before she knew.
So here I am, and I'm so excited. I have a specimen. I don't know if it'll throw it off because it's all diluted, but I also brought home a pregnancy test. And this time around, I'm going to be doing the announcement. At least I hope so bad she's pregnant.
Which, when you think about it, is a great sort of story. It's a great piece of content if you want to look at it objectively. And it did. It went viral. They made this video, went viral. They did all these interviews. So that's kind of how they became quite famous. And then the Ashley Madison thing happened. And the reason that they're in the news again is because of this documentary that came out that we spoke about on the show. There were sort of two couples that were interviewed for that, or one woman whose husband took his life after his name was leaked, and then Sam and Nia, who got through it. They nearly split up, but they didn't. They got through it. I think they've since had another child. It's now 10 years ago, and I reached out to them for a No Filter interview. They said yes because they've written a book. They sat down in their bedroom a couple of weeks ago to do this interview with me. It was very intimate because literally their bed was in the background and I'm talking to these two strangers about their sex life and his affairs and all the different ways in which he cheated. The reaction to this has been really interesting in that people are absolutely furious with him. Like the comments on the social media post just around my No Filter interview, oh my God, they hate him.
Nobody buys it, do they? So the comments that I saw are a mixture of once a cheat, always a cheat, to he's a narcissist,
douchebag. I mean, they're awful.
Just absolutely uniformly negative about him. One of the things I find interesting about that is that this did happen 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So what we're actually, if you strip away all the kind of Ashley Madison of it all, what we're actually looking at is a couple telling us how they got through
Infidelity. Which is something that Esther Perel, author of Mating in Captivity, talks about a lot. She says it doesn't have to be a deal breaker. In some relationships it is. But they're an example of a couple in which it wasn't. But what I'm interested to understand, I know you've both listened to the interview, why is everyone so angry at him? Because he's a guy who said, I'm sorry, I won't do it again. Em?
For me personally, I find as someone who's been single majority of her 20s, as well as someone who's non-exclusively dated multiple people at the same time, I find the idea of cheating so fascinating because I can't grasp what people get out of cheating that they don't get from their relationship.
But did you listen to what Sam said? He basically said they wanted to lose their virginity to each other. She was 15 when they met. I think he was 18 or 19. They fell hard and fast in love, but they were very torn and they ended up having sex, but then they felt terrible about it because they wanted to save sex until marriage. So then they got married. And on paper, they hadn't slept with or done anything with anyone. And he was basically saying,
you know, like in the documentary movies, I was so fascinated by romance and that aspect of my marriage that a novelty wore off. And that was a bummer for me. So I wanted to keep seeking that attention and that romance.
Even like with dating, that's why so many men, in my experience, stay single, because they get like these little glimpses of attention that women who are single get constantly, where it becomes like then a bit boring.
Single women get a lot of attention
I
from
think
guys.
it's much easier for single women to have like casual sex than it is for men to have casual sex.
Really? Why do you think that?
oh, yes, it is.
Because you can choose to, because there are men will do it.
Yeah.
That's what you mean. Okay.
And for me, it was just really interesting because I think even if he was single before that, it would have been hard for him to have like sexual relationships before his wife. And then the minute he would have gotten attention from someone else who wasn't his wife, he's like, I've never done this before, so let's try it.
What did you think about him? Were you one of the angry people?
I feel really bad saying this, but I was more just upset with her being in that interview and watching him talk about it. It almost felt like she was endorsing a behavior that I have grown up learning that you should never endorse from a man and never accept.
But why was she endorsing it? Because like she wasn't like, yeah, it was fine. And she wasn't like, yeah, he might do it again. I'm just a doormat. Like she was very honest about the fact that they went to the brink and that she really did think about divorce.
In the early days, I was convinced like we were getting a divorce. There was no other way around it.
Why are people angry?
One of my theories about this is that cheating is one of those things that we all accept happens, but you're never supposed to admit that it happens. Do you know what I mean? It's like people are more comfortable with the idea that in long-term relationships, people are cheating if we don't talk about it. But if you talk about it and you say, I did, or I wanted to, or, you know, I've thought about it, or she did, or he did, and we got through it, people are outraged. And it's really hypocritical of us because we talk all the time about how long-term relationships are hard work. If your aspiration is to be with one person for a very large chunk of your life, and these two being conservative Christians, that's part of their life started in their teens and presumably is supposed to end when one of them dies. Doing that is very hard, and anyone who tells you that it isn't is lying, but you have to pretend that it's easy. We only really want to see and celebrate marriages that are our romantic ideal of what all marriages are. Even though when I listened to it, I had all kinds of issues with them, but that was mostly to do with their solutions to it. I found very confusing.
Speak about that.
So it's interesting context when you realize how long ago this happened, because I think all the people who are going, well, he's just going to cheat again and he's lying and all that, they're not giving her any credit. It's like 10 years, right? They've been through a lot. She says that they were in therapy twice a week for a long time, then every week, then every month. Like they've worked it out. But they did admit, and I know a lot of this is tied up in their religion, that the solution was also to basically put him on a lead. Like that's basically what they've done. And I know other couples who've done this. So there are rules around who he's allowed to socialize with. He's not allowed to have any relationships with women. He can't be alone with women. He can't talk to women on his phone. He can't go out with men who she doesn't sanction or approve of, who aren't good Christian people. There are rules about where he's allowed to go, how long he's allowed to be out for. And I know that this is my straining against my libertarians.
Oh, you wouldn't like any of that.
I find that, I'm like, that is a fake situation. You know, it's like if you teach a cat, it doesn't live outside, it lives in a flat, it will play along with it to a point, but the cat wants to go out and catch a mouse. Do you know what I mean? And I don't mean by that comparison that he wants to go out and cheat, but what I mean is by creating this safe world, it's not the real world. If she can't trust him or he can't trust himself to be in the presence of a female who isn't his wife or his mother or his sister or his daughter without wanting to cheat, then he's still a cheat. Do you know what I mean?
I do. I was listening to a podcast with Glennon Doyle and her wife, Abby Wambach, and they were talking about jealousy. And they'd both been cheated on a lot in their relationships, particularly Glennon, I think, said that every person she'd ever been with, including her husband, had cheated on her. So she had a lot of trust issues. She said in the beginning of their relationship, she was incredibly jealous, and you know, there was one time that they both recalled that Abby came out of the shower and Glennon was checking her phone, even though she had no reason to believe that Abby was cheating on her. And Abby's version of events was really interesting because the way she reacted was not, what are you doing? Don't you trust me? She actually said to her straight away,
oh, honey, what else do you need? Do you want my email password? What else do you need? I understand that for some people that's an invasion of privacy. I totally get it. But based on your wounds, based on me knowing your wounds, based on my wounds, that felt like such an easy thing to do.
And I thought that is so interesting, that idea of, and again, I don't know with Sam and Nia what the situation is, whether all of those rules are because he needs to be kept on a tight lead and he agrees that he needs to be kept on a tight lead because he does want to go out and catch a mouse, or whether that's just what she needs to be able to trust him again, because part of it was not just, I mean, he didn't actually cheat via Ashley Madison because they were all bots, but he deceived her over a really long period of time, including messaging and propositioning her closest friend, different women, sex workers. And there were many times where she thought something was up and he reassured her that there wasn't. And so the way I read it was that she needs all of those things so that she can build her trust back. Is that different or not different?
I couldn't live like that. I think that one of the reasons...
Which person? You couldn't be her
either
or you
of
couldn't
those
be
people.
him?
I couldn't be somebody's jailer and I couldn't be jailed. Like, I think hearing her talk about all that was most heartbreaking to me, because I'm not particularly black and white about cheating. I'm not talking about my relationship or whatever here. I mean, broadly my value system. Cheating with somebody else does not have to be a deal breaker. Betraying you is a different thing, right? And that is lying to you, making you feel crazy,
Gaslighting,
trying to chat up your friends. That is betrayal.
That's different, right?
And I think that's different. If it's purely getting a sexual need met, you know, you can talk about that. But literally making a joke of what you think you have, that is a very difficult thing to forgive. So she's actually amazing that she's managed to do that. But if in managing to do that, you have to create this sort of, I was thinking about it a lot, because I was thinking I wouldn't say that, would I, if someone was an alcoholic and then they had to, you know, a lot of sober people have to live with very strict boundaries around where they can be, who they can socialize with, whether they can be in a venue that has alcohol. Like, and I guess there's a comparison there, if you like. And I wouldn't poo-poo that idea, but I just can't get around the idea that if the only thing that's keeping the dog on the porch is, remember Hillary Clinton famously said about Bill Clinton, he's a hard dog to keep on the porch. Ultimately, I think you've got to be true about who you are. And some people are more driven by sex, desire, flirtation, all of those dopamine hits that you get.
Which Sam says he
said.
is.
And I think in a way, if you know that about yourself, you're living a lie to pretend that's not who you are.
When I interviewed the psychopath a couple of weeks ago on No Filter, and I asked her, because she doesn't have remorse or anything like that, and she doesn't know kind of moral feelings about cheating. So I said, well, then how come you don't cheat on your husband? And she was very pragmatic. She said, because I really like being married.
Yeah.
I like living in this house. I like not sharing custody of my kids.
It's respect.
It's respect. Yeah. And why is that not a good enough reason for him to not cheat? Why does he have to not have the impulse?
What really weirded me out about this interview was finding out that they were big family vloggers, like in the past. Because if you were on YouTube, which it was my generation on YouTube those days, it was such a competitive place to be if you were a family vlogger. Like, you're competing with all these massive families. And surprisingly, all of their audience were young children. Like, it was like me being like 17, 16. I was like an ideal. Like, that's the family that I want to create when I grow up. And that's what these families were doing. And then suddenly we all grew up, and then their YouTube channels just flunked, and then they were like kind of in the abyss.
Didn't we also find out that a lot of them were like
living a lie?
Living a lie.
A lot of them, like, there's been so many families, like Ace family.
Starving their children, or like all there's terrible things that we discovered were going on behind the scenes of these seemingly idyllic families.
And I remember in the interview you did with Mia, she said that he always had like these big ideas, like he was a big ideas man, and he knew things would go viral and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think when you have those big granular ideas and you expect things to go viral, you don't stop. And just knowing that they did this documentary and this book and stuff, and they're getting paid for all of this.
Not much though. I genuinely don't think that's
I think he's chasing that limelight.
I do too. And he actually says in the book, when he was 17, he was in a band, and his friends used to call him, I'm paraphrasing, but like a fame whore. Like, he just wanted attention and he wanted fame. I was watching him during the interview, and the way he spoke about needing excitement outside and wanting to chase these big ideas. And he said something so interesting. He said,
I think a lot of people want freedom. They're like, I want freedom for my marriage, so I'm going to go outside of my marriage and seek freedom. But what I found is I became enslaved rather than more free. And I've started to understand that freedom is actually just obeying the laws of the Lord and the laws of nature, obeying those and staying within its confines. But I kind of look at it as like being in the swimming pool. Like if you don't obey the laws of the water, you'll drown. But if you do obey the rules and you swim and you respect its resistance against you, it's very freeing.
I feel like using the word chaos, especially the way he talked about his cheating, he would always refer it as a thing, like it happened, it brought chaos. And it made me kind of, as a listener, think he's trying to separate himself from the act he did.
Of course.
But this is, again, I just have this real thing that everybody's different, right? And there are some people for whom monogamy suits them, right? Security suits them. Monogamy suits them. Respect is enough to keep them in the door. The idea of juggling lies and deceptions and the fact that at any minute you might be caught out would be your worst nightmare. You are anxious, like that's your personality, male, female, whatever. And then there are people for whom that is their lifeblood and they love it. And then maybe they also have really high sex drives. Maybe they haven't, they've been very repressed I don't want to criticize their religion, but it's repression, right? Suggesting that any kind of sex outside of this very specific union is sinful.
I think that's what sets you up for failure,
Yes,
because we
the
see this
expectation.
in, the extreme forms of not just Christian religion, but all religions. To meet the tenets of that religion in its extreme form, you have to subvert so many basic human desires and instincts and deny them.
And I think that if that's who you are, that's the kind of person you are, that's really what people mean when they say things like he's a hard dog to keep on the porch, which is such a but that's what they mean. Like Hillary Clinton knew about the charismatic, extroverted, needy guy that she married, that he was always going to want other people's attention and other people's sexual attention. And then you make a deal with yourself about whether or not you can handle that, right? And within your marriage, and maybe you put some boundaries around it and you say, no one we know, only out of town, I don't want to know about it, or I want to know everything about it, or whatever it is. But we like to pretend that all relationships are the same and that we're all the same. So she's an idiot in the eyes of the world for forgiving him for that, or he's a terrible person for doing that, when it's just much more complicated than that. So my issue with it is about the kind of constraining and fighting and pushing back against your nature.
Yeah.
I just think that is I've never seen it work. I've never seen it
Doesn't
work.
everybody have to do that to some degree? I mean, it's not like once you're in a committed relationship, you stop living and breathing and you don't have eyes and you don't have ever chemistry with anyone anymore. But you choose, right? You have to keep choosing monogamy.
And I think that's harder for some people than others.
I agree with that.
And I think the thing about this is when I say I've never seen it work, what I mean by that is that we've all known or been in relationships or something where one partner will be very jealous and insecure. That never, ever stops the other person from cheating. That never works as a strategy.
Right.
Like if I'm cheating and you're checking my phone every day, I'm still cheating. You checking my phone, I'm just going to find another way to do it.
But are you feeling, if I'm checking your phone every day, does that give me some peace of mind that enables me to hate you less for the cheating that you did on me before and trust you more? Is that just the price you have to pay for winning back my trust?
I totally get that. Like I know marriages that have been through a lot of things and then they come back together and say, these are our boundaries. Boundaries are good, right? But there's boundaries and then there's literally trying to turn somebody into somebody else. And maybe it'll work when he's 50 or 60. You know what I mean?
got a really strong sense though that it wasn't her imposing these things on him. It was him imposing them on himself. Like he's like, okay, I know that this is potentially my weakness. I've strayed in a way that I'm not proud of and I don't want to repeat because I don't like the devastation that it caused to my wife and in his mind also sinning against God. So what do I have to do to avoid temptation?
I get that.
And to stay on the right path?
I mean, as much as everybody hates this guy, he hates himself a lot.
Yeah, oh, he does. And that's why I don't hate him. Like he's like, I think he's trying. Like he's trying.
But how do you know he hates himself?
For me, that came across, and this is bound up in his strict moral code, is that he clearly thinks that what he did is the worst thing that he could have done, but he did it anyway and he hates himself for it and he's repenting and he's making up for it and blah, blah, blah. And maybe they've lasted 10 years with that, which is fine. No one's diagnosing whether their marriage is going to last or not. But ultimately, again, I don't think anything good can come from a place of self-hatred. One day it's going to bubble out of him. Like one day, when I say that, I sound like I'm an expert and I'm certainly not in knowing what's going to happen with these particular people. But in my experience, that's not a way to change and grow. Like hating yourself and beating yourself up is not a way to change and grow.
I think he's giving himself a good edit.
Do you?
Yeah.
See, this is interesting how no one ever wants to give no one ever wants to give someone who's admitted to cheating any inch. Aren't we just admitting something very human?
Oh, I think it's just him as a person. Like, I think I see that content light in his head going, this is content. This is what I'm going to say to get more views. This is what I'm going to say to get more listens. And they are still married, but they could probably not even be in a relationship anymore.
Oh, no.
So basically you don't buy any of it because But you don't buy any of it because they're
He cried
influencers.
in our interview. I don't think he's that
cry.
good. No, I can't cry on command. Can you cry on command?
I can cry on command.
I think
Can you?
Yeah.
I think, though, that what Em's saying is behind a lot of the bad vibes that are coming towards them is I think that once you have opened your private life, relationship, family up as content, which they have very clearly done, and, you know, we've talked about this lots of times.
J-Lo.
Yeah, many of us, and to different degrees, lots of people do. People always say to us, how much do you share? How much don't you share? But once you open that door, nobody trusts anything you're showing them anyway, right? So the fact that they are making content out of the relationship even now, just like they were back then, but in a different way, probably makes everybody go, bullshit.
What was really interesting was when I asked them, has it been good for business? Have a listen. We'll put a link to that episode in the show notes if you haven't heard already. Otherwise, if you want to chat about it more, you can go into the Out Louders Facebook group or have a chat on our Instagram page.
It's recommendations time. Emily Vernem, why don't you go first, my friend?
Okay. I am doing something a bit different because I'm recommending a concept because I don't want to go back to my desk. I want to keep talking to you guys. So over the long weekend, I went down a bit of a rabbit hole reading advice columns in the Times. I'm that age where I only read advice columns.
So the UK Times is behind paywall and they dropped it so you could read Dolly Alderton, just so that Em could read Dolly Alderton for a day.
Dolly Alderton, every broken-hearted millennial's favourite author.
That's true,
Dolly
right?
Alderton. There was this one submission that said, am I right to be annoyed with my coupled up friends? So this person said that they were single for quite some time, and to make herself feel better about her situation, she decided to do things that her friends in relationships couldn't do. So things like going on solo dates, like going to dinner, going to the cinema, or going on holiday by herself.
Why can't you do that as a couple?
She said that she believes those things should be at the preserve of the single people.
Oh my God, people are insufferable.
She then
What, like you because you conjoined?
Keep going.
She then talked about how a friend in a relationship took herself out on a solo date and another friend went on a holiday even though she had a boyfriend, but she went by herself just because. And she said she was ashamed to say that she was internally incensed.
So she was mad because she was like,
You're
they're
impeding
cutting
on my
my
single
grass.
stuff. Yeah.
I do things by myself. You do things in couples.
Yeah. So if people in relationships can do the same things that people who are single can do, is there a point in being single?
So like single appropriation.
Yes. Dolly Alderton said, this is a clumsy way to put it, but I think what you're feeling is anger about that people with relationship privilege are appropriating your culture as a single person.
Oh, that's quite funny.
That's so good.
So Dolly Alden would have said that with tongue in cheek very much. I do all of those things because I am still an autonomous human.
You are a
despite being
grown-up.
married. I go on holidays alone. There's nothing that a single person could do that I couldn't do. It's interesting. I was listening to a podcast with these two friends. I think they're both married, but these two women who went on holidays together and they're in their 30s and they bumped into like a woman who was like in her 70s or something and she was traveling solo and they assumed she was like maybe widowed or divorced, single, whatever. And she's like, no, but my husband didn't come because he's saving up for his own trip. He's going to Cambodia. And they were like, oh, I think that's what you're probably talking.
Yeah.
This person's probably talking about.
So when you guys do stuff by yourself
Yeah.
and you talk about it with your friends who are in relationships, what are their reactions? Are they kind of like, why are you doing it by yourself?
Too? No.
So you don't get a reaction.
So here's the thing. You know what I know really annoys my single friends who are of an age like me? If I might mindlessly be like, oh, alone time, I love it, and they're feeling lonely, and they're like, fuck you. You know what I mean? Like, it must be nice for you that that's a treat. It's not a treat for me. That kind of thing. Is that what we mean here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But personally, I think from my experience, what I hate is being a single person, my friends in relationships always expect me to be doing something fun that they can't necessarily do all the time. If I had $1 for every person who told me to go to a freaking art gallery, I'd have shares. I'd have shares in the art museum.
Am I mad? Like, why can't you go to an art gallery by yourself if you're in a relationship?
I think that single people think, because when you are single, like for a long time, and you don't want to be, because there's different camps, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to be single? Don't you want to be single? I don't mean you right now, Em. I mean, you can.
We'll talk about it off the mic.
Yeah. But like, if you're happily single, none of this would bother you. But if you are coveting a relationship,
and you're having to cheer
which is what
yourself
she was
up.
saying.
Yeah.
She was like trying to make herself feel better about being single by doing all these solo things.
So you're telling yourself, the good thing about me being single is that I get to go and eat in that restaurant. I don't have to compromise with that annoying, snory person on my couch.
And then your friend with the boyfriend's like, oh, I'm going to do that too. And you're like, no.
Yes.
No.
Because you think that's your perks,
Yeah.
right? That, you know, that's your perks is you get to live your own life and do your own thing and everyone else has to compromise and be miserable. And the truth is, there is a lot of compromise in relationships. There is. I sometimes have to watch things I don't want. Mia doesn't do that. But I have to watch things I don't want to watch. I have to eat things I don't want to eat. Sometimes I have to go hang out with people I don't want to hang out with. Like, it is true, if that makes you feel any better.
That does make me feel better.
But I am also a grown-up who can go, I'm going to go and do that on my own. I can do that.
That's so interesting.
My reco is Colin from Accounts season 2.
that show.
So if you didn't watch Colin from Accounts season 1, it was a big hit. Was it last year or the year before? Maybe the year before. On Binge, Australian comedy, actually became very popular internationally, created and starring Patrick Bramall, Harriet Dyer. The premise is unexpected couple, I guess, right?
Two very good-looking people.
Very good-looking people who meet each other in Sydney when one of them runs over the other one's dog, and then the hilarity ensues. Anyway, I loved season 1, but there were things about it that also kind of annoyed me. And we are 4 episodes into season 2 now. It is perfection.
Yeah, I think it's good too.
I can't remember the last time I laughed out loud that much. I love that it's kind of a bit gritty and a bit wrong. Like, it's not one of those shows where you think all the time, oh, yeah, that was a sensible choice, or all these people have got everything sorted. And every now and again it annoys me how they portray older women.
Yep.
That's a little
that
bit
annoyed me about season 1, but it's better in season 2.
That's a bit of a
Are you talking about her mum?
Well, her mum and also the ex-girlfriend.
Love her mum.
So without any spoilers, Gordon's ex-girlfriend is portrayed as a kind of
Yvette.
Yvette the vet is portrayed as a kind of crazy, desperate. That used to annoy me. And it still is a little bit of a sand of the oyster for me, but then I have to keep reminding myself that I don't have to like everything about a piece of art. I just think it's great.
How likely do you think it is that I could naturally get a woman pregnant?
Are you exclusive?
Yeah. What do you mean? Yes. Why?
No, nothing.
Like your dress.
It's a skirt and a top.
New or?
Nah.
Have you lost a bit of weight?
Nope.
Not that you need to. Like, you look great to me at any weight. Like, you could balloon and I'd be fine. But and you don't need to, like...
Can you get out?
Yeah.
Mia, your recommendation is?
Some people think I'm the big boss here at Mamma Mia.
Wow.
But no, I'm never happier than when I'm actually at the cold face making shit. People would be surprised. I move furniture around here. I like doing things.
I remember one time I
Like
passed
building
you and you were like buying tables on your laptop.
Not only did I buy the table, I assembled the table with an Allen key.
That's very Mia.
I love it. I love getting my hands dirty. So you may have heard of a new blockbuster podcast called Mid that launched recently.
I heard it has a great host.
It's got a very sexy host and it's been a big hit. And Holly and I have been wanting to do this for a really, really long time. And she's gone ahead and done it, which has been glorious. But I've wanted to build some supporting stuff around it, like
She's
an
clever.
Instagram account, a newsletter, because I feel like as a woman in this demographic, as Holly is as well, Gen X women or women over 40 really, with all due respect to your people, Em, sometimes it's tiring being around your people.
Got it.
And their ways.
Thank God I'm just a fill-in host.
And sometimes, or Jesse's just as bad.
Jesse's the same.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes we just like to be amongst our own kind. And so I have been myself populating our Mid Instagram account and writing the Mid newsletter. I'm doing it in the back end.
You're the social lead.
I'm
She
the social
literally is.
lead.
I go
I'm the content
every
creator
time I
Mid.
pick up my phone, Mid by Mamma Mia, which is the Instagram account, has another hilarious meme, another video. And I'm like, what is she doing?
Yeah, I got in trouble the
As
other
someone who
day.
used to be in the social team, you're killing it.
Except I'm not, because I got a message from Instagram the other day saying one of my posts was taken down because it had breached copyright laws. And I'm like, whoops, best I learn the rules and not break the
Don't
law.
tell anyone.
So, we're learning. It's trial and error. But there's some things about being this age where I'm actually really disinterested in other people of other ages, and I just want to have somewhere. I mean, sometimes I am, like, don't get me wrong, I like learning about socks and changing up my socks, but I also want to be a place where everyone is confused about socks. And that's what Mid is. So we will put a link to the newsletter. It's different to the Out Loud newsletter. It is so good. Of course, the Mid podcast is so good, and the Instagram account, we'll link to them all in the show notes.
Every Tuesday and Thursday, we drop new segments of Mamma Mia Out Loud just for Mamma Mia subscribers. Follow the link in the show notes to get your daily dose of Out Loud, and a big thank you to all our current subscribers. It's best and worst time. Who's going to go first? Where are we up to? Em Vernem.
I can go first. Okay.
And remember, everybody, the thing about best and worst, this is the bit where we talk about our personal lives, although we may have done that a bit already today.
A little bit.
It's very much from the little to the silly to the ridiculous to the offensive. Go, Em.
So my worst. We start with worst, right?
Yeah.
My worst.
That's already out the rule.
I know. I'm looking at you. I'm like,
I'm
oh,
very
shit.
strict.
I have realized that I may potentially kind of be the side friend in my friendship group.
In this podcast? Yes.
In this podcast and in all my – this podcast is not making me feel better about my worst, can I just say.
Go on.
I want to rebrand myself as the accidental side friend via convenience. Because I realized that a lot of my friends catch up without me.
How did you discover this?
Did we talk about the side friend on this show?
You talked about side. It's that friend who's like kind of the third, who's like kind of like forgotten on the side.
And that has to keep going, hey guys.
Yeah.
Hey guys.
And I've noticed recently that I was looking through a lot of my different friendship groups, because I have a lot of friends, chats. And for like the last 4 or 5 messages, I've been the one asking and initiating and catch up.
Do you think they all have side chats without you?
Left on red.
And then I put it together. Like a lot of my friends either live really close together or live together, or they either work together, or they have like a mutual friend, like their partners might be friends as well. And I'm always the one who's the odd one out in that dynamic.
Third wheel.
I'm the third wheel. And I'm like... Anyway,
I think you're going through a life phase at the minute where you're noticing a lot of
sudden
slights.
return?
Last week it was about like no one bought me a birthday cake, my parents don't call me enough or something. And today it's about the side friends. You're feeling a bit sidelined, doll. You're feeling a bit...
She's quarter life crisis.
Yes, I think it is. It's the Saturn return.
I think it's my Saturn return.
I'd look at your social life, obviously, via social media.
I'm not getting a fringe. Do not. How
And
dare
I'm
you.
like, Em has the best social life. You're always eating things.
You see my
at
highlight
places.
reel. My best was Vivid.
Oh, you went?
I went to Vivid. Well, okay, so Vivid's kind of like, if you're don't live in Sydney, it's like this big festival in Sydney that happens over 2 weeks. It's a big light festival. A lot of artists come here and show off their exhibitions. A lot of people travel here to watch.
It gets bigger and bigger every year,
It's
right?
so big this year. And because I live in the city, it's literally at my doorstep. Like I walk out of my apartment block.
And you're in it. You're
I'm
part
in
of
it.
the festival.
I am Vivid.
You start glowing.
Everybody's
pointing at you.
I'm there.
Is she an exhibition or is she a real life Sydney sider?
I am Vivid incarnated.
With this exhibition.
People are like, look at that one. And it's just me.
That's great. Living your
glowing.
life. Eating your noodles.
So there's like this big like fire kitchen right outside my building.
What does that mean?
I don't really know, but there's kitchen and there's fire. So they're like guys in kitchens cooking. They've gotten like chefs from like America and around the world to come here, and they're like making all these different meat things, and then these fire things go up, and there's all these exhibitions. So I'm like, we're so lucky to live in this beautiful city. I don't think I appreciate that enough. Oh,
You definitely are.
we should go tonight.
Okay, the reason I didn't know it was on is because my worst, I blame you. I've been in bed for the last 5 days with the flu.
Oh, darling.
Don't blame me, because you were sick last week and you were
Since we last recorded, I know I struggled a little bit through that show. And then I went home after I went to the gynecologist to check out my flash period.
And you got your gyno sick.
I hope I didn't get my gyno sick, actually. I was like, I really need to go home. And then I'm like, no, I really have to get in the stirrups and just feel even better about myself. So she had a little look at my cervix. She said, if in case anyone is interested, not that anyone asked, I didn't have a polyp because I thought maybe I've got a polyp.
Has everyone been waiting for me a cervix update?
You don't have a polyp, but you do have the flu, so get out.
The out louders want to know. They want a cervix update. So she was like, look, I can't see anything up there apart from, your cervix. I'm like, but I've got no ovaries anymore because I had them removed, which is another story. I'm like, what's bleeding? And she said, it's because you're on HRT. You can sometimes still get that. So she said if it's annoying, you can get a Marina. And I'm like, no, it's not annoying. I mean, I did bleed through my tracksuit pants. But anyway, this wasn't my worst. This is
not your worst.
My worst is the flu.
So I had the flu story. I had flu. I was bloody sick, but proper flu, right? So then I was like, and then everyone's got pneumonia. So I thought, I'll go to the doctor.
Don't look at me saying proper flu. I had the proper flu.
Well, no, because how everyone's like, I had the flu. And I'm always very... I would need proof of your flu. Don't just say I've got flu because I don't like people upgrading. I don't like it. It's an unauthorized upgrade of your illness. So I went because I was worried I've got asthma. I was worried, this is very detailed. I was worried I might have bronchitis or pneumonia because I have health anxiety.
Jesus Christ.
So I got swabbed at the doctor.
Can I just say you bullied me on mic last
She
time?
said, and the results came back, I had nothing, but I did have influenza A. I'm an influenza A. And so that's my worst.
You went to bed. What's your best, babe? What's
my
your
best was having the flu. I've completely
okay, this is bullshit.
stopped you because I have to say I didn't feel that bad. I didn't feel great, but I cancelled 2 days worth of interviews. I had a couple of no filters that I had to cancel, which was a shame. But then I was just in bed. My husband's away. My children are grown up enough to sort their shit out.
I feel like you're impeding on my single person culture.
I was so,
Being by yourself.
do you know, I was in my bed. I had 5 devices scattered around me, a Kindle, 2 phones, a laptop, an iPad. I don't know why I needed them all. A box of tissues, some fidget toys. I wasn't hungry, so food wasn't a problem. And I just hung out.
Did you like it?
I fucking loved it.
I go crazy.
See, I told you.
No, well, when you're sick enough, you don't. It's when you start to get bored is when you know you're getting better.
Yeah.
And it was a long weekend and I didn't have to talk. I really needed the recharge. So I didn't feel good, but I liked the lifestyle it afforded me.
I respect your decision to stay home.
You took to your bed.
I took to my bed.
Yeah, and sometimes we need
heroin.
to do that. All right, I'm going to keep mine short because they are both cervix related, and I think everyone's heard quite enough about our cervixes for one day. After giving me a shit last week for her talking about her flash period, and I think I sat here and said, I haven't had a period for years. I would freak out if that happened to me. I caught her flash period.
Oh, my God.
I messaged her and I said, fuck you, I'm bleeding.
We're like
the floodgates are open.
We're like flatmates. Or
grab your umbrella.
Yeah. Who knew we could still sink each other? That means I'm the dominant one. Oh, you'd be shocked to
Do
hear.
you have the alpha badge?
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
got the alpha
Oh,
badge.
Beta badge.
She's the top dog.
So
It's
how did yours
upsetting.
go? Did you bleed on
Well,
your
no,
trackies?
it hasn't been as scary and heavy as yours, but it's like I'm not even joking out loud, as I know you don't need to know this, but I have not had a period for years because I had Marina. Then I had my Marina taken out, but nothing happened. Like I'm on estrogen, although I have been stretching my patches out because they're so hard to find.
That could be why.
And then last week I started getting really sore boobs, and I actually said to Brent, I've got really sore boobs. I do not
could be
understand
pregnant,
it. I
she
could
said.
be pregnant. I said I could be the world's oldest pregnant person, and he looked at me in horror and abject terror, and I was like, yeah, I'm sure I'm not. Anyway, and I got my period. Really weird.
Was it kind of nostalgic?
No, I'd forgotten how annoying it is. But my best is that, and also cervix related, but more of a PSA, really, friends. I went to have what we used to call a pap smear the other week, and now it's just called a cervical screen. And you can do it yourself now.
DIY.
And
Much better branding, cervical screen versus pap smear.
It is, isn't it? Cervical screening. You can do it yourself now. And I read about this, I'd heard about this. And the thing is the way it works is you go to the doctor and you can choose to either do it the old-fashioned, well, with my GP, I could choose to either jump on the table, do it the old-fashioned way, or they give you, it's like a, and you can choose to take it home or do it at the doctor. So I could
In front of the doctor?
No. That would be weird.
Well, to make sure you're doing it right.
It's got instructions on the back, and I think we're all very prepped for this now because we've been testing ourselves for COVID for a long time, although it's a different hole,
It's
obviously.
up there. Just
I went in the bathroom at the doctor, you just do it, and then you screw it back in its little tube, put the lid back on, pop it in a plastic bag, leave it with the lucky receptionist at the front desk. And the thing is I'm not really that squeamish about those things, and obviously I've been getting pap smears for a very, very long time, but I thought about all the women I know who do really struggle
Yeah.
to get pap smears, whether they've got vaginismus, whether they've just got anxiety around it, whether they just freak out about that metal thing they wind in there and everything, which is all fine. But the thing is, it's really important to get them. We all know that, right? You've got to get your health checks, even when you're older, even if you don't have periods, doesn't matter. Go get them. And so I just thought, this is amazing. My daughter, for example, will probably never really have to jump up and get the speculum in, will
Do
she?
you know what I think the worst part about it is, which is why I'm excited about this, is the small talk.
Yeah.
Because I had to do that with my gyno last week when I went. When you're lying there, you got your knickers off.
I'm worrying
And
about
they're-
your knickers. You know, when you walk in and you're like, oh,
And you hide your knickers, which is so funny given what they're about to see.
Wait, you hide?
You put them
Do
under
you not
your
hide
coat.
your knickers?
No.
Yeah.
You don't hide your knickers.
No.
Oh, come on.
Just throw them on the floor.
I always hide my knickers.
So rude.
It's so
you
weird.
You fold your knickers and you put
you
them
hide
under
them.
your other clothes on the chair.
I
You
don't
have
know
to do
why,
that.
given your
You
doctor's
put
about
your
to look
knickers
into
on the
your
chair
vagina.
where someone sits.
No, well,
On your clothes.
wherever, but you hide them. I don't know why you hide them. I don't know why. Anyway, and then you're lying there, and then you have to go, so how are the kids?
Yeah, exactly.
Like being busy, the weather.
know.
I find that excruciating. So I'm quite excited about sticking it up myself.
So my best was that experience and thinking how the world has changed. And some things have got better, not worse.
It's good news.
Anyway, I think we've talked about cervixes for way too long.
I don't know. We
It's
haven't had
time.
an update
It's
about
time
Ems.
to close out this week. I think, my friend Mia, tell everyone about the episode for subscribers that they can get. In
So
their feed right
an
now.
Out Louder reached out to me via DM, and it's something that we popped into the Out Louders Facebook group and on the Instagram page about a dilemma she had with her 23-year-old daughter who went out and had a really terrible night out, and she didn't know how to help her daughter deal with it. And we read all of your replies, and we wanted to think about it and give our advice as well to this Out Louder. So have a listen. We'll put a link in the show notes.
That is it. That is it for the week. Our Friday fun up is finished. Thank you, Em Vernem, for filling in and coming and sitting here and being the side friend on our show.
Thanks for having me, and thank you for also saying that you're kind of over people like me,
Oh,
the Gen Zs.
No, we sometimes
Even
just
though
like
I do
a safe
follow the
space.
Instagram. I love the mid-Instagram.
I know. Look,
You're doing a great
you're a
job.
very broad-minded young person. And also a big thank you to our amazing team, to Emeline Gazilas, our producer, our assistant producer, Tahli Blackman, Leah Porges, who does audio production, and our brand manager, Kerry Scott Jackson, and to all of you Out Louders for listening to us for another week. We love you loads, and we'll see you on Monday.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Shout out to any Mamma Mia subscribers listening. If you love the show and want to support us as well, subscribing to Mamma Mia is the very best way to do so. There is a link in the episode description.